Hello guys and welcome to a new video. So in today's video we're gonna talk briefly about PHP, just a high-level overview of the PHP language, why it's needed and how it came into existence and kind of general characteristics of the language. So as I said previously, this is not a really web programming class, so we're not gonna really talk about the whole PHP language. It in fact needs a whole class dedicated just to the language itself, but we're going to be able to learn the basics that will allow us to create an application that will interact with a backend database. PHP stands for, originally it actually stood for personal home pages. So when PHP was created, the purpose of the language was just to create personal pages, just like your home page. Like if you talk about yourself and kind of something similar to the work that we did in class. Now, those content actually are static, which means that once you publish your pages, they're gonna, for the most part, remain the same. So if you use it today, if you come back to the same app, years later or months later, there should not be much changes happening. But PHP developed over time. Sorry. So PHP developed over time, and the features of the language also change, and what the language also supports, and what the language also, like the features that it has also change. So nowadays, PHP stands for uh, Hypertext Preprocessor, which is a reverse acronym. Now, the way we use PHP and the reason we use PHP is because when you create web applications, there is this client side, which is your browser, but there's also the server side, which is, the server wherever it is. Now, these days, you can get, like XAMPP, which will actually work as a server for you, and it allows to make your own personal machine run like a server. So this is going to be a reference for you guys to use. I'll be posting maybe one or two more references related to connecting your application to the database, but for the most part, this should be enough. Now, the other thing I also want to emphasize is we're not going to go talking about the whole PHP language because, just coming from Java, PHP is not really a lot different. So you're going to see there is a lot of similarities in there. And essentially, the way we're going to do things is I'll be writing some code. And then if something I feel is new, I could talk more about it. But for the most part, like if statements, for loops, variables, things like that are all exactly the same in PHP as well as in Java. Okay, so first thing first, what I'm going to do now is, this is the application that we created. So far, the files that we created are all HTML files, and you see over here they end with .html. Now for PHP, the story is a little different. PHP files, they need to have .php extension. Now keep in mind that any language or any code that you would have in HTML could perfectly fit in PHP files. So you might have a .php file that's entirely HTML, and that's perfectly fine. Now the other way around is actually not true. So you cannot have a .html file, but you have PHP code in there. That's not gonna work. So to do that, first thing first, what we're gonna do, this is our project. I will actually change the extension of these files so that they are .php. The way you would do this is you right click on the file name and then just rename it. So now I will go to the extension and that's .php. And notice how the icon changes right next to this one because the editor has, or actually this Visual Studio Code has different editors for different file extensions. I'm going to do the same thing for this guy. So that's going to be .php. Okay. So now let me show you this. So, and I don't think it's gonna work, but let's try it. So if I actually copy the path for this file and then try to run it in the browser, notice how it runs. It just actually opens up with just the exact test that appears in the file. Again, because .php files, they're intended to work a little differently. So how do we do this? Now we need to do a couple things, and I want you maybe to pause the video after I do this and make sure you get this correctly. So now this file is under my home directory. So this tilde is my home directory. I have a directory called workspace, and then I have another folder over there called CS221. Now for PHP, this file needs, or this folder needs to be located inside of my XAMPP folder. So my XAMPP folder in this instance is under my applications. So if I actually open applications, I have a folder called XAMPP. If you're using Windows, probably it's going to be directly under your C drive. That's the default location where XAMPP should be located. So figure out where the XAMPP is, and once you open XAMPP, I'm just going to open this in Finder, you will have a folder called htdocs. So open htdocs. That's where all your projects need to be located. So now my folder I just showed you is inside of my workspace, this guy. So I'm actually gonna take this and drag it to drag. So I'm just gonna copy it, paste it over here. So now this is actually where my project is. And the other thing is, I already, by the way, I already have, I think I have XAMPP already running. So let's see. So if not, no, it was not running because I think I just restarted the machine. So you go manage server, and then you can, oh, they're already, so they're already starting, the three of them. Now, keep in mind, and that's where I think some, what you need to do is, this is not the folder I just copied. This is still under my workspace. So I need to actually, I'm just gonna actually, remove from workspace and then get this file from the htdocs we just put the folder in. So I'm gonna go file, and you have to do this again, just like what I'm doing. Add folder to workspace, and then I'm gonna go to my applications, XAMPP, htdocs, CS221, and this is, add. Now you're gonna see now CS221, these two files are under here. So now these are the two files. Notice actually VS Code tells me this is inside of the workspace, so I no longer need this one. And no, this is the right one, so I can keep it. So now what I need to do in order to access this file, if I do, copy path and then try to run this directly, notice no change. And it's still the same case for the other file. To access the file, you would have to run the server locally on your machine. The way you would do this is by typing localhost. And then since I already started XAMPP, localhost opens up XAMPP. And then I think we called it CS221 uppercase. It's case sensitive, so you have to also be careful. And this is actually my app. So now if I do index.php, notice it opens up this page. Help.php opens this one. So it actually perfectly renders the page. Okay. So that's what, that's going to be the end of this video. In my next video, we're just going to do some PHP scripting and see how that's going to work. So make sure for now you're able to run XAMPP, and make sure you're able to run your app locally uh, on your own, like on your own machine, including some PHP files inside of the page. Okay, so hope that was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.